What's going on, guys? Seth here from Team Union Seth, here for our Week 8 Power Rankings in Season 2 of the RPL. We are yet again joined by Rishu
Hello.
and O'Connell.
Hi guys.
And unfortunately, this week we do not have a guest. We had some scheduling issues with recording for ourselves, so this week is just going to be the three of us. But it's still going to be a good time, hopefully a little bit shorter. And we're going to get right into it. So, surprise, surprise, again at number 12, we have the Talbot Bischofsheim Herdiers. Ocon, I'll let you start with their game. Never mind, they didn't have a game.
They didn't have a game.
So
I think they're passing directly.
So yeah, what happened with them? They were supposed to face the Durham Granbulls, and the coach of the Durham Granbulls, she actually got married last week, during week 8. So she didn't have a whole lot of time to prep or battle. So the coach of the Herdiers has just decided to give her the win. And that was that. So the Durham Granbulls got a 3-0 forfeit over the Herdiers.
What a nice wedding gift.
Yeah. So at number 11 we have the Emerald City Espeons. Ocon, I'll let you talk about them first.
Okay, they were my opponents this week, and I am having a hard time to find good things to say about prep or the play right now, because Megagron swept the whole team. Actually, I think it got 5 kills.
That is correct. It was 5.
Yeah, it's like he had no answer. He tried to set up with Lati, which was something he had to at that point, because I don't think there was anything that could have killed Metagross, and I don't think he had enough answers for anything. Like, for example, Lati could have been physical, because my team has lots of great special special balls like Blissey or special Toxapex or even Mew, and he already had strong special attacker in Gengar and Torn, so an Espeon, so Lati could have been physical, and he had like 2 special psychic types against a team with Blissey, Megagram, Mew. So yeah, the questionable prep kind of get together with the questionable play in the end. So the game ended 5-0, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. Better luck next time. I think now he is out of the playoffs for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
mathematical way, yeah. So better luck next season.
Okay, Rishi, what did you think?
So this is like the first week it seems he just legit didn't really try that hard in prepper playing. He didn't bring any answers for Mega Aggron, despite the fact that he had a Alomomola available to him. It wasn't there. I think he might have brought the same team he brought the week before. He may have changed some sets around. I don't really know. It was hard to tell. He made some pretty inexplicable misplays around the Aggron, specifically not Earth powering Blissey on the one turn that he switched back to wish Aggron back up, because Diamond Storm wasn't going to do over half to Blissey. So, like, doing anything besides Earth powering to try to kill the Aggron there was literally pointless, since anything else would have just been brought back to full health. So, I mean, yeah, it just kind of seems like he's thrown in the towel on the season. After this game was over, I can't remember if it was after this game was over, or right before, he agreed to trade Alomomola away. He actually agreed to trade Tornadus Therian away. But his partner decided not to do that in a move that I'll question when we get to him. But he decided to trade Alomomola away for Savali. And so despite the fact that it's actually not a terrible trade on its surface, given who got what, I think he actually won the trade, which is kind of ironic. But he does, like, Alomomola has been really crucial to his team comp. I've criticized in the last 2 weeks for not bringing it. And so he's giving away now, I think it might be his only water type and his only real good defensive Amon that could technically be a water type and could technically be a defensive mon, but kind of sucks at both. So, it's just really disappointing where his season is gone, because like we've been saying, his team I don't think was terrible crafting. I thought it was pretty good. But it just didn't really match his playstyle, his team being really hyper offensive and him playing a more balanced playstyle. He never looked comfortable building with it, he never really looked comfortable playing with it, so his season never got off the ground. And hopefully he's able to come back next season with a more comfortable team, because that's really all he can hope for.
Alright, so at number 10, you guys both had the Barbados Bibarels again for the second week in a row. They did lose to your team Rishu, the Orlando Appolitoeds, so I'll let you start with this battle and get into the Bibarels.
Okay, so like his prep wasn't great, his play wasn't great, but neither was his matchup really. In terms of stuff that he actually could have brought, I mean, Bibarel might legitimately have helped him in this game, which is both funny and kind of a testament to how weird his team is. More than the stuff that was brought, I think that not bringing Alolan Muck was a mistake, because Mega Absol was capable of doing a lot of damage in this game, and Muck was his only real, like, actual answer to Mega Absol, and it wasn't here. But he, for the most part, at least in the early game, he played okay. You're seeing right now I make a stupid misplay, and he got some hacks on his side. He crit something at one point, I can't remember, and then he got a freeze on Absol later in the game, but he ultimately couldn't really overcome how bad his matchup was, because specifically, I talk about Absol, but Blaziken also really messed, like, Blaziken two-shot his entire team, and so my job in this game was actually extremely easy, and so he didn't really do a lot in his prep to change how that happened. Again, not having Muck was a problem in that regard, not having Bibarel, not having things that actually Scarfers faster than base 80 to try to deter me from just, like, sitting there with Blaziken, didn't allow him to do anything in the matchup to counter it, and so he ended up getting Blazikened. His play for most of the game was either predictable or kind of questionable after the early hacks. You saw at one point already, I think he sent in Herdiers versus Crobat to try to get Sticky Webs up after he saw me first of all, send in Herdiers on Crobat, second of all, probably FD Fog. He outraged with Goodra to kill Vaporeon when he could have done probably anything else and not locked himself in. And Goodra at this point was very important for him to try to win the game. So with this loss, he now finds himself more or less outside playoff contention. He still obviously has a chance, but he really needs wins in his last two games to try to get back into it, so see if he can.
I'd just like to point out that this man went early ORAS and ran Brutal Swing on his Mega Scizor.
Did he?
Yeah.
He did.
Oh yeah, I think someone typed in the chat that he was, like, predicting a switch in, and I was like, wow, that's weird. What was he predicting a switch in to? Because that wasn't going to actually do anything.
Like, I'm really surprised about that Scizor, off Scizor set.
And the fact that he didn't Bullet Punch the Absol was also good.
Yeah.
Unless,
Not that it mattered,
yeah,
but
is that all you got, Rishu?
yeah, that's. I'll talk more about it when I get to myself, because, like, I have harsh criticisms for myself.
Yeah, me too.
But
Alright, Okan, what you got for this one?
Well, I think the prep is again questionable. Like you said, Alolan Muck is really good this week. I would say what's the bird?
Honchkrow.
Yeah, Honchkrow. Honchkrow is really good this week. He could have done some good things against coming in like Tangrowth or even Blaziken, because your team only had Vape as a Brave Bird switching.
I couldn't switch into Brave Birds with Vaporeon, I'm telling you that right now.
I was gonna say, I don't know if I'd consider that a switch-in.
Yeah, like, I mean, that's what I'm telling, like, that is the best one, and it's not a good one. So it could have been really strong, like a Banded or Life Orb. Honchkrow could have done some serious business. And other than that, Milotic was incredibly good against your team, Sam. Like, it could have stopped the Blaziken or Absol, and he tried to just toxic stall the Tangrowth and let it get weakened. I think which was a huge misplay for his part.
To be fair, toxic stalling the Tangrowth actually would have worked if I
Yeah,
had
but-
not done something about it. So like,
Yeah, but
It's not
like
that
you
bad,
could
but-
have done something about it.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you did
Yeah.
do something.
Yeah, and Dugtrio died for nothing basically. Like, why would you sub on Tangrowth with Dugtrio? What are you gonna do? Even if you didn't break the sub there. Like, what's the ultimate plan?
Does Dugtrio get Aerial Ace? I feel like it does.
It does.
It does.
It wouldn't
like,
do anything though.
It wouldn't.
Yeah, assume it is Flying Z. I'm pretty sure it's not doing anything.
It's not as he kept in. He had a screech off. It might have done 40%.
Scizor set was really crazy, really dumb. I don't think if I think it doesn't have U-turn, right? Did he U-turn at all?
Did we
I
see?
think it was probably a Swords Dance setup set. We only saw 2 of his moves.
What did we see? We saw Brutal Swing and what else?
Bullet Punch.
Superpower, Bullet Punch.
Oh,
I'm
it did
not
have
sure
superpower.
about Gordon.
Yeah,
But
I
I don't think. I don't know why he had superpower. Stakataka, maybe.
that makes sense.
Yeah, but
I'll
still,
check it.
why would you have Brutal Swing though? What are you trying to hit with Brutal Swing? If you had U-turn, I mean, it's really easy to come into the Tangrowth and then U-turn out, or come into the wave and U-turn.
To be,
I'd
the
also like-
Cofagrigus would be what you were trying to hit with Brutal Swing.
Yeah, but he also gets knockoff, which is infinitely better.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, the set doesn't make much sense. Other than that, I don't know. The sticky web plays was really questionable. Lots of plays was really questionable, and now, yeah, like you said, he still has a chance for the playoffs. His differential is not too bad. He can win 2, and if one of the 4 teams lose 2 or just win 1 and the differentials align, he can still make the playoffs.
I think he has a game left against the Crawdaunts, which is going to be pretty interesting.
The last game, right? Wait, let me
Yeah.
see his
I believe
just
so.
Barbados.
Yeah, his 2 games left are against the Teddy
Oh,
Bears
he's
and the
playing against
Crawdaunts.
the Herdiers this week. So if you get the win, and then he's gonna kind of play final.
That last week is gonna come down to a lot.
There's still a chance then. Yeah. Okay, that's all for me.
Because the next two weeks are both division matchups for everyone, and I'm pretty sure that last week has a lot of implications for a lot of teams. So we'll see what happens there. But anyway, sliding over to the next slide. At number 9, both you guys had the Indiana Infernapes. So Okan, you can talk a little bit about them and their loss this week.
Sure. Are they out of the playoffs right now?
They're
They're
2
not out.
They're
No,
2
no.
and 6.
Kinda, they are. Yeah, they are.
They're basically out, but they're not actually out.
Mathematically, no, but for all intents and purposes, yes.
There's so many teams above them that it's hard to see them getting
There
out.
was about his play. I don't know how good he. I really don't remember the game right now.
I mean, I can go first again.
Yeah,
if
you
I
can
don't
go. You
know,
can go
but-
first. Yeah, you can go first.
Because I was sitting with his opponent while they were playing the game.
Okay.
Because we were about to go see Detective Pikachu, which will come up again when I talk about myself.
Oh boy.
So this game kind of feels bad as an analyst because he did what we told him or suggested that he do in mixing up his prep. Like, this is the first week either of the rain teams didn't bring rain, and I think not bringing Appolitoed to this game was an objectively good idea. The problem is that the mix-up in prep didn't work at all, and he has no answers to Gartana on his entire team. So, this is a really unfavorable matchup for him. I think 2 turns into the game, Okan, you typed something in the chat like improvise, adapt, overcome, because he might have said something after he got spored, and then his opponent added in win with Kartana lol. And then what ended up happening is Kartana got 5 kills, and the only reason he didn't get 6 is because Shedinja got a favorable roll on Drampa. So, like I said, Thunderous probably needed to be brought because it's the only mon on his team that could even like masquerade as an answer to Kartana in resisting Steel and Grass. And Hax played kind of a factor where he got paralyzed by the Thunderbolt. In the end, that actually ended up helping him because he got super lucky with that Drampa. Like, that Drampa was schmoovin' after he got paralyzed. Like, he landed, I think, 3 Focus Blasts in a row.
Yeah.
Like, that was actually hilarious. I was watching that. But yeah, other than that, his matchup was bad. I'm not sure there was much he could do in prep. His play was very predictable throughout this entire game. So there wasn't really much that he actually did as a player to fix the matchup. It was kind of the same thing that Paul had the problem with against Dokkan, but just a vastly different kind of matchup. And literally as soon as Kartana touched this field, the game was over.
I would like to assume that the Drampa wasn't Sepsiper, right? It was Berserk.
No, it was Berserk. It didn't matter.
So his Drampa and his Kartana answer was Toxic Rock, I think.
His Kartana answer was getting swept by Kartana, let's be real here. Like,
I mean, I guess it would have been Metagross.
Yeah, it
no,
could have.
because
But then knockoff.
The only thing
Did we
The
see
only
it?
thing that plausibly would have happened, Kartana had knockoff. The only thing that plausibly would have happened is if he had Berserk on Drampa, he could have theoretically answered it. But that only works because his opponent's 4th move was Swords Dance and not Sacred Sword. Because if it was Sacred Sword, there was nothing he could do. His Kartana answer was getting swept by Kartana.
Could have been
Thunderous.
Thunderous.
And even then, Thunderous isn't a great answer because we saw Z Giga Impact in this game, which does one-shot Thunderous. So his opponent, again, we'll talk about it when we get to him, had a great matchup and prepped well. There wasn't anything that the Infernapes could do in prep, and there wasn't anything they actually did in the play to make it less predictable or shake things up. And so there was just not a lot he could do, and that's really unfortunate. But with this game, he lost, and the previous week against the Herdiers, he's lost a ton of momentum. It's going to be really difficult for him to get it back. He's kind of out of time at this point, but he did build up, quite a good string of battles, at least in terms of his play, and I like how he's improved over the course of the season. So if he can translate that into next season, assuming he comes back, then I think he's in good shape. But for right now, he's in a rough spot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely shown that he can battle with some of the good players in the league and can put up a fight. So I'm excited to see how he comes back next season if he does return. But Okan, your thoughts on the battle?
Yeah, just checking his team again. He could have only had Thunders as a Kartana switch, I would say, or Electros. But he could have also had a Scarf Heliolisk. Scarf Heliolisk could have been good in this game. Then again, Shedinja probably would have stopped that, but I wouldn't be against the ideas. Since, like, even if opponent had sticky webs, still it would have been a speed tie with Kartana.
Yeah, that's true.
Other than that, yeah, he had nothing for Kartana. He was doing fine until Kartana hit the field. But yeah, I can't say he played bad. He prepped bad. Like, with this matchup, he had nothing to do. I don't think he could have done anything differently to win the game. The play wasn't bad. The prep was bad, but that's all I'm gonna say.
It's so easy to say, like, he had no answers for Kartana and all that stuff, but I mean, Kartana's so good, it's hard to answer it anyway. And just the fact that, I mean, you're not wrong, but just like the fact,
Psycho Cut.
Yeah, that's true. But like the fact that he didn't have anything that was particularly good against it just made it that much worse. But I don't know, Kartana's just hard hard to prep for and play against in general. I think it kind of set him up for failure, maybe even in prep.
Yeah, and in this scenario, Rain would not have even helped him. Like, if he had still had Go-Goat on his team, maybe.
He never had
HP
Go-Goat.
Fire. No, he did. He dropped it.
Wasn't
HP Fire Go-Goat.
So we're gonna move on to number 8. Both of you guys had the Hartford Herdiers, and you dropped them one spot from last week. They did unfortunately lose this week to the team you guys moved up one slot to number 7. So Okan, I'll let you talk about this one first.
I wanna go. Ryan, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, but he played terrible. He really played terrible. Okay. A good start for him. He starts with Raikou against the Kingdra. He got sub up. Okay, great. Then he weakened Kingdra and he chose to stay in. I understand he could have gone into Araquanid or even Snorlax there, but he has this idea of he shouldn't ever switch into Snorlax for some reason against the special attackers. I don't understand why he does that. And then he got really what would you say, the ambitious, trying to sub with the Serperior against Kingdra, which could have gone for Ice Beam or something and stop it. Then he went into Ninetales and he tried to click Aurora Veil while the Pelipper could have easily switched in. If he after the electric dog, the Raikou died, if he went into directly Ninetales, set the hail up, be faster than anything on his team, and click just freeze dry, he has no switch into that. He's gonna get a kill, and he's gonna kill either Kingdra or whatever comes in. Even if it doesn't die, it's probably gonna take at least 50%. He can't set he can't come in with a Pelipper to set the rain up against a freeze dry. Like Ninetales was his win condition in this game, and the opponent had really nothing for Ninetales, and he just sacrificed that. And the lags could have come against anything that isn't Feraligatr or that isn't Poliwrath. Even for Poliwrath, I think he could have taken one at least. But I think he really played bad this game. Like the matchup is there. His team is much better. He made all the wrong plays to lose the game. So I'm really disappointed in this one. That's all.
Yeah, Rishu, what were your thoughts on this battle?
Okay, so like the prep wasn't that terrible. I shouldn't say that terrible. The prep wasn't bad at all, which I do want to give him a little bit of credit for. Maybe Necrozma could have helped him. I don't know what he would have subbed out for Necrozma, but maybe it could have helped him because it's a Necrozma, and if you like, there's always that ideal one set that everyone thinks exists.
We prepped together. It was Necrozma versus Banette, and Banette was better because Destiny Bot could have stopped the Shot Smash or any other setup.
I mean, I'm not saying I disagree with not bringing Necrozma. I'm just saying, like, Necrozma is Necrozma. It could always maybe help you.
It always has
hindsight being 2020. I probably would have made the same decision that you guys did in your scenario, to be honest. But yeah, everything you said about his play is 100% true. These are the same mistakes that he was making earlier in the season that was costing him, and he made them maybe tenfold over. Sacking the Raikou super early, subbing with the Superior, not sending in Ninetales after the Raikou died, and just spamming Freeze Dry since he's playing a mono water team. He set up webs against the Poliwrath after Z-Splash was up instead of attacking it, when if he had attacked it, Ninetales could have killed, and it didn't. I disagreed necessarily that Ninetales needed to be his win con just because he also had a grass and electric type and his team he was playing only had water types, and any of them could have been his win con. This game illustrated what I really don't like about two of the mons he picked up that he brought, which is that Superior's one-dimensional and not that great before you get a Leaf Storm up, and Ninetales is like really weak. Like Ninetales not killing that Poliwrath there was a big deal, and both of those cost him to various extents. And so we do have to give credit to his opponent because we'll talk about him next, but his prep caught Ryan super off guard. That much is pretty apparent. And that combined with the early misplays ended up leading to the loss. But the game was still close, and that was a product of obviously the matchup being really good against Mono Water and his prep not being bad. So this loss, much like the previous thing we talked about, does put him behind the 8-ball for the last 2 weeks. And he loses basically all the momentum he had coming off the 3-game win streak that he had going. So he does need a really drastic increase in quality of his play to get into the playoffs. At this point, he has the same last two opponents the Infernapes do, but his matchups are a little bit better, so I guess it's a little bit more plausible that he gets in. I don't know. But he's shown in the past that when he is on his game, that he can compete, and when he has a team that he's comfortable with, he's a really dangerous player. So we'll see if he can take what he learned about his team that he didn't like from this season and translate that into next season and try to play it better.
All right, so I'll let you keep talking about his opponent, the Colorado Crawdaunts, which you guys moved up to number 7 from this week. So you can go ahead and just start talking about them.
Okay, so like the opposite side of the coin that we saw with the Infernapes, which is from an analyst perspective, he's heeded what we've been telling him to do for weeks now, which is bring different sets, mix it up. Just because you have mono water doesn't mean you have to bring the same sets all the time, even if you like them. And he saw better results, in large part due to that creativity. Sea Splash on Poliwrath was a good bring, caught his opponent off guard. He did bring a crit draw. That didn't end up mattering in the game, but it was a good bring that could have caught his opponent off guard. Bringing Feraligatr, great bring, caught his opponent off guard, ended up winning the game for him. Even having low kick on Seismitoad, which is a more low-key subtle mix-up, good bring, caught his opponent off guard. And all of these things did end up putting in work. So we talked about his opponent's misplays already, and he took advantage of them, which is, we've been talking throughout the season, that's what good players do. So he rode that advantage all the way home to, even though, again, it was a close game, it was a 1-0, his matchup is terrible. His matchup is terrible every week, and his matchup was, I think, maybe even particularly bad this week because of Ninetales. But he let his opponent... he played well. He gave his opponent the opportunity to give him the game, and he did. And so this is the blueprint. This is what he needs to do to win games. He needs to bring different creative sets every single week. He can't like these sets that he brought this week so much that he brings them again, because they're not going to work as well a second time, just because teams who watch this or who watch his replays will know what to prepare for. We still haven't seen an offensive Pelipper. We still haven't seen him attempt to not bring rain. We still haven't seen any other variety of creativity that he could bring on his team, and the avenues are still there. But this is what he needs to do to give himself a chance every week, because we know he's a good player. His play has been, for the most part, very good, but he needs that really added extra dose of magic sauce, the creativity in the team prep for him to give himself a chance. So he has to come back at it next week, more different stuff. However, that being said, he does at this point. He's in 5th place, I think, right now. So he's in the driver's seat with his schedule. His last 2 weeks he plays the Cavaliers, and he plays Barbados. So his game against Cavaliers at this point, due to the differential, doesn't actually really matter that much. And so as long as he can take care of business against the Bibarels, who he's been playing better than for the most part of the last 6 weeks, he can find himself in the playoffs as a mono water team in a draft league, which I think is really impressive.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okan, you can give your thoughts.
Yeah, I don't have much things to add. I would say he didn't play bad, but I'm sorry, but I can't give the win to him. Like, I can't say he played good to win the game. He played better than his opponents. He didn't make any mistakes. Like, but there was no really good place. Like, I mean, yeah, he didn't play bad. That's the key here. I don't know if he could have adjusted if the opponent made the correct plays. There was the switches on his game, but was it enough? Like, I would really want to see the Feral Gutters set, because I think D-Dance Feral Gutter could have been pretty good. Like D-Dance, Ice, Fang, Waterfall, something like Superpower. But did he have fighting move? I don't think he had fighting move.
We only saw one move. It was Liquidation,
Yeah,
and it killed the Snorlax
like,
with a
if
crit.
he had
Didn't matter, but
if he had a fighting move, he would have used on Snorlax.
Liquidation did plenty.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna get up into our top 6 here. At number 6, you guys had the Bloomington Glooms, which they stayed in the same spot as they were last week for both of you. So Okan, do you want to take this one first, or do you want to let Rish take it?
Sure, I can take this one first.
Okay.
I think he played pretty good. I can't say he played pretty good this week. He played good enough to win because, like we discussed already, his opponent didn't have any Kartana answers. The game was just came into the bring in Kartana and win, which he did. Are we okay?
Yeah, you're good. I accidentally hit the spacebar.
Yeah, like he's memeing, and the memes work with like Shedinja and Smurgle. Actually, Smurgle is a pretty normal. Both are pretty normal sets, but when you had Kartana and Kyurem, you can just bring subpar mons and still win. But the real problem is, we were saying about the other teams, they're always bringing the same sets. I think Gastrodon and Porygon came in every week along with Kyurem, and I think
He hasn't
Kartana
actually brought.
as well.
He has not brought Gastrodon a whole lot.
Really?
No.
Maybe that's
Porygon, yeah.
Let me see. Gastrodon came into the 4 games, Porygon 5 games,
Oh.
and Kyurem is 4, Kartana is 4 since he acquired them, and they acquired week 6. So since he acquired them, they came in every week.
I think what's crazy is that Espeon brings Smeargle and Shedinja to the same battle.
Yeah.
Hey.
But like I said,
The...
when you had that team, you
Yeah.
can bring them, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think his team has definitely gone a little bit under the radar this season, and it's kind of uncharacteristic of him to have a 4-4 record like he does. So it's kind of weird. I mean, we've had some weird things happen in this league this season. I mean, some good players haven't been playing up to par. Some not considered as good players have been playing well. One in particular. But
Wow.
I mean, historically, this is just not the way I would have predicted the league to play out. However, that's what's great about the league format, is like you really, I mean, as cliche as it is, you never really know what's going to happen, and that's what's cool about it. Rishu, your thoughts on the battle from the Glooms?
Okay, so like before I get into this, right? Let's just talk about how disrespectful that is to Paul. All right, I love meaning that Paul sucks as much as anybody else. Paul was the runner-up in this league last season, and he beat you twice.
Yeah.
Actually, that doesn't tell much about Paul. That would tell much about league quality, I would say.
He beat Seth twice. He went 9-3.
Yeah.
He won his conference. he had the best regular season record in his conference last season. I think it was the third best record overall in the league. And then he lost to me in the championship. So he had a good season last season.
Oh,
Now, in other seasons, he has not played as well or as up to par in other leagues. But give Paul some credit, saying that using him as the example of teams that are bad that are playing well.
His team is bad.
His team is terrible. We agreed that his team is really bad, but give the man some credit.
No, he's definitely
on to the Glooms.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about him when we come to him.
We'll talk about
on to the Glooms. He had such a great matchup, and he knew it, and he exploited it, and he said, "I'm gonna win with Kartana turn 2," and Kartana got 5 kills. So he exploited that matchup as far as it could go. His opponent played really predictably, fed into it. Smeargle setting webs early and removing Omastar as a means of doing anything. Like Omastar, I guess, could have been kind of annoying with the weak armor. I think if it had HP Fire and he actually woke up there and HP Fire the Kartana, that would have been hilarious and given him an extra differential point, but it wouldn't have made a difference. I talked about the only reason Kartana didn't get 6 kills is because Shedinja got a favorable roll on the Trampa. We didn't talk about at all Kirim White in this matchup. Against the Rain team, Kirim White and Kartana are just so deadly because Swampert isn't good against either of them. He doesn't have another Swift Swimmer. The only Mons on his team that could feasibly beat both Kartana and Kirim White simultaneously are Toxicroak, which is slower and gets one shot, Heliolisk and Thunderous, which both need to have Focus Blast, and neither of which are faster than Kartana anyway.
Isn't Thunderous the move, Sea Captain?
It might be. It wouldn't matter again because he's slower and gets one shot.
Mm-hmm.
So he would need to be Scarf with Focus Blast or HP Fire, and or I guess probably HP Fighting would kill if he wanted to. So there's just, again, not a lot he could do, but that's not to take away from the Glooms, because you can throw away good matchups in prep. It's possible. His team has a bunch of meme Mons on it, and if he just decided, lol, I'm not going to bring Kartana, or I'm going to bring Sunny Day Kirin Black, right, like he did against the Mono Water team, then he could have easily thrown this game away. But he didn't. He had good prep across the board. He had answers to all his opponent's Mons. He lost a differential point trying to play for hacks with Porygon 2, which is the only real criticism I have. I will say about Shedinja had a really good matchup as far as Shedinja matchups go, and I'm the one that got him to bring it because he hasn't brought it yet this season, and I figured it might, teams might have just stopped prepping for it, which I was not right, but I also wasn't totally wrong.
The only thing I remember from the last season is I played against him, I think. He again had Shedinja and he swept me 6-0 with Shedinja because I had nothing to hit that.
Exactly. His Shedinja had 8 or 9 kills last season. It was hilarious. I think it was his second leading killer.
He's really good at using those meme type Mons.
He loves those meme Mons. Shedinja, Smeargles, or Orc.
I think something like I said a little bit earlier that he's kind of going a little bit under the radar. I think something else that he does that goes under the radar is he knows how to game plan well for what he wants to do.
Yeah, he's very, we talked about last week, when he's playing, everything he does is always logical and has a reason for it. I don't want to blow too much steam. I don't want to gas him up too much because he is still 4-4 and has still lost a bunch of games. But historically, yeah, he's a very logical player and builder, knows exactly what he wants to do and how to do it. But in this game specifically, he had a game plan. It was a really easy game plan to execute. And his opponent's prep being so predictable as it was, it just fed into it right from the beginning. From turn 1, the moment he clicks Spore on Smeargle, which is the most obvious thing you could do in a scenario with Smeargle where you're leading with it, he's winning the game. And so right now he is the 6th team in the standings. And he does control his own fate to the extent that he can beat the Durham Granbuls in week 8, or week 9, excuse me.
I mean, it's not going to be easy because he plays the Granbuls and then he plays me as well. So those are two
That's a
difficult matchups for everyone.
Tough schedule.
I don't know that he has to win against you if he beats the Grand Bulls.
Mm.
But because the Grand Bulls do have a better differential than him still, if he loses that game, he's not going to make the playoffs. Because she plays the Espeons the week after. And, like, I don't want to say that it's guaranteed that she'll beat the Espeons, but the Espeons having essentially waved a white flag on the season.
Easier matchup, basically, yeah. Even if it's not guaranteed.
With the matchup being what it is, and with her having played as well as she has at this point, I don't think it's a stretch to say the Grand Bulls are probably going to win that game. So next week is essentially a must-win for both of those teams, and will decide one of the playoff spots. It's feasible that they could both end up in a spot if certain things happen, but if either of them wants to essentially guarantee that they get it, they have to win that game. That game, the importance of that game for both teams cannot be overstated. So we'll see what happens. That's probably going to be the most interesting game of the season for me to watch.
Definitely. So moving on, as we mentioned, the Durham Grambles, you both had them at number 5. Rishu, they moved down a slot for you as the Torterras moved up. But like I said before, they did get the forfeit victory over the Talbot Bischofsheim Teddy Ursas. So now they're 3 and 5. They got an extra +3 in their differential, and are moving forward, like we said, with two difficult, two division matchups coming in the next couple of weeks, and 2 games that are definitely must-wins for them, for all intents and purposes. So we're gonna move on. So 2 through 4 is where it gets a little messy, because of some things that may have happened this week. But we're gonna start. Rishu, I'll let you start. We're gonna talk about your team, the Appolitoeds, first. Okan, you moved them down a slot to number 4, and Rishu, you still had yourself at your number 3. So you can talk about your game and how you think you played.
Alright, so like I do have I think if there was a week to move me to 4, this was the week to do it. But I still think that moving me to 4 is incredibly dumb, and if it wasn't 7:45 in the morning right now, I would be very, very, very unhappy.
I was going to touch on that later.
Just wait until
Vocally unhappy with this decision. Because, like, I've clearly been a better team than Paul for 7 of the 8 weeks.
Spoilers.
And the 8th week was the closest week that we've had so far. And the 8th week, the week that I lost to him, was a 1-0 where I still had a chance to win the game at the end. So,
I'll leave it on.
Alright, this isn't about you trying to get number 3.
I understand recency bias, but this is extreme. Anyways, so my prep was actually pretty good. Like, I had a good Blaziken set that beat his whole team. The Zeissneck set that I didn't get to set up with could have beat his whole team. The Absol set was actually very good. It was nice and creative. You like that flamethrower for the Scizor. My 4th moves that we didn't see was actually Will-O-Wisp. Well, I actually didn't see Knockoff either, but it's granted that Absol had it. The composition, I think, against my opponent was overall pretty good. This is easily the worst I've played in a game so far this season. And there is a reason for that I touched on already, which is that I was going to see Detective Pikachu with the Glooms coach. This game was originally scheduled for 6 o'clock. Well, it was originally scheduled for 9 o'clock. I asked to move it forward to 6 because of when I was going to see the movie. I had to leave at 7, and my opponent postponed for 45 minutes. So I had to get this game done in 15. So I think I calced one thing the entire game, and I rushed every single one of my plays. So my mind was like really not in this game because I had to get out. It is an excuse. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying that my play was good, but and I did still win the game, which at this point is really all that matters. But like, yeah, this is easily the worst I've played. I have a reason for that. And the movie was very good, so I regret nothing.
Fair enough. I need to actually see it.
That resulted in a bunch of, that resulted in an obvious misplay that you already saw, which is switching Vaporeon out against the Goodra. Like, I had Wish. I could have just stayed in and Toxiced him, or Wished and then Toxiced him. But I let Tangrowth take a bunch of damage, which made it even harder for me to switch into Goodra later in the game, but I'm alright with that misplay, honestly. As long as I still win the game, I'm okay to help out Sticky Man's MVP case anytime. I burned the Z move on the Goodra, which I didn't realize was locked into Outrage still. So I probably could have outraged it myself and gotten away with it and kept the Z move, which would have been helpful.
Yeah, I
But it's
saw
not.
that and I was wondering why you decided to Z, but the fact you had outrage definitely makes more sense.
I did not again realize that he was locked in, so it was not a great play, but it wasn't a terrible one. So those put me on the back foot, yeah. But like, Blaziken had such an amazing matchup in this game. Like you mentioned it when you were talking about the Bibarels Okon, that Milotic was a passable switch into Blaziken. Milotic got two-shot by Blaziken. You saw it take 53% from high jump kick.
High jump kick though, like if you prepped with Protect, if you prepped with the Flame Orb, things could have been different.
First of all,
the Milot is a good mon, against Blaziken. It's just that
Yes.
he didn't prep enough for that.
Don't get me started on Flame or Milotic. I have a lot of reasons why, or not a lot of reasons. I have a very specific reason why I think Flame or Milotic is actually really bad. Because like
I love
you
Milotic.
literally
Yeah, me
lose
too.
12% each turn that you don't have leftovers and you have Flame Orb instead. It's ridiculous.
6%.
No, you get 60, and the 6% that you're not gaining from leftovers is 12. You're poisoning yourself. It's stupid.
What?
That's the mathematic, yeah. That's
You
the
lose the
is correct.
6%.
Oh,
You don't
okay.
get 6% from leftovers, and you lose 6% from taking bird damage. It's dumb. It's not worth it. Anyways,
Interesting.
so speaking of, well, this is actually a very good segue because I was able to regroup as I was with my analysis, and
Which never ends apparently.
Ouch!
and win with a wow, win with a favorable matchup, taking advantage of the mistakes that my opponent did make. And Blaziken ends up cleaning the game. This is obviously not the cleanest win. I probably could have squeezed out one or two more differential points, maybe even all of them if I had been careful. But at this point, I'm now 7 differential points ahead of Seth, back in the 2 spot. So it's not really super likely that he's going to catch me if we both win out. So at this point, like, a win is a win, and it is way more important than playing for differential. So that's where I'm at. I think I played better than Paul. Maybe not this week either. So I guess 6 out of the 8 weeks, I've played better than Paul, and that's all there is to it.
Okon, yeah, you can give your thoughts.
First of all, I would say 5 out of 7 weeks, considering the last week and this week.
I said 6 out of 8. This is week 8.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, sorry. My bad. Other than that, yeah, I don't think you played bad this week. Yeah, you played kind of rushed, but you didn't make huge misplays other than the Vaporeon one. And the reason you are down is not because of your plays, it's because of the trend and the Paul's play. Paul had to go up, so you had to go down. That's my thinking. You didn't play bad, I think, this week. The prep is there, the play is also there. Like, I don't know what would I change. Like I said, I think the Hunch Crow was really good against your team. I think if I were prepping in your name, I would have Stakataka just to
Hunch Crow
switch.
gets superpower.
Yeah.
It does that, right? Then Choppleberry.
Yeah.
Hunch Crow maybe. Could, but then that's
Yeah.
just lose to the... Yeah. I don't know. I don't think you had the Hunch Crow answer then.
My Hunch Crow answer was high jump kicking Hunch Crow.
Great. Like I said, not much you could have changed. And the best you could have changed is Mega Absol, because Mega Absol sucks. But other than that, yeah, you played good. Like I said, you're down one spot, but that's not about you.
Okay.
Congrats.
That's fair though.
Let's talk about Paul.
Yeah, so we're gonna move
Mega
on.
Axel was a good doggo this week.
We're gonna talk about Paul's game. Rishi, you moved him up to number 4, and as you guys will see now, Okon, you had them slide up to number 2, as they did play and defeat my own team. So, Okon, you can talk about them first.
I would like to start by saying that Paul really didn't play good this week. Actually, yeah, like he for some reason just choose not to set up Star Trek with the Horsey anytime, which would have helped him a lot if he did. But again, also the switch in against the. Why am I forgetting the names today? The Sableye. He could have just stay in and earthquake the Sableye or anything. Like, I think he was expecting a Will-O-Wisp there.
Yeah.
I understand that. But even just clicking the Stealth Rock was good there. Like, Charizard switching didn't make much sense. Then Solar Beaming and then Air Slashing, none of them made much sense. But I believe that power rankings is about the trend, and if you win against like number 2 and number 3 teams, you get this confidence, you get this, you kind of start believing in yourself, and then that affects your play. That makes you better. That's the difference between the power rankings and the official standings. That's why I'm thinking the Paul in the number 2nd spot is justified now, because he defeated the 2nd and 3rd best teams and players right now, back to back. So even though he made mistakes, he kind of knew the doggy was his win condition. He played kind of good for that. Other than the gunk shot, the officially worst play of the league, gunk shot. I think played good to okay this whole game. I think the prep was really good. I don't think he should have brought anything differently. He could have played a little differently, but the overall play is, I think, really justifying the Paul's 2nd place this week. And anyone who ranks him lower than 3 is a hater, I would say.
Rishu.
That hurts.
Your rebuttal?
Because everything that you said is right, and like thinking that way is a valid way to rank power rankings. So I'm not gonna say. Well, I am gonna say that I think I forgot that you put Paul 2 and not 3, which I also think is ridiculous from my perspective. But if that's how you're gonna rank teams, like, I don't have a specific qualm with you ranking that way, and if that's the way you're gonna rank, I don't have a specific qualm with Paul being 2nd. However, rankings for me, obviously recency matters. That's why he's not 5th still, because the Grand Bulls have still, in terms of like raw number of weeks, outperformed him, and the Glooms are even close. But so recency does matter, but I think I like to take into account more how the coach's entire season has been going, and that's been a trend that we've been seeing the past few weeks anyway.
But if I didn't just take care of the overall play, just because of the recency, Paul could have been won. Because like if I didn't take it, defeating the 2nd and 3rd best team just puts you really high.
Yeah, no, I buy. I'm 100% behind all of that. This is not to take away anything from what he has done the past 2 weeks, but I just am really, really not a fan of how he played his first 6 weeks of the season.
I would have loved to see you put Paul at number 1, Okan.
That would have been hilarious. If you put Paulie ahead of you, oh my goodness.
Maybe.
But anyway, your analysis on the game.
Yeah. Paul, he done diddly did it again. Paul, aka some random fellow, aka coach of the Twinleaf Town Torterras, making mama proud. It's really difficult for me to analyze this game because it's kind of hard to articulate how Paul won. Because like you talked about, he didn't play that well. Switching in, like, Lizard making a series of misplays. I don't think not setting up rocks was necessarily a terrible play, just because Charizard switching into Sableye is pretty free, and he gets a pretty free kill if he like plays his Charizard right. But he like did that thing again where he like gets into his own head and makes everything a 50-50 when it doesn't have to be. So he solar beams a Rhyperior that's not there, then he air slashes the Infernape that doesn't come in, and then he later in the game gunk shots a Jolteon that doesn't come in, as opposed to just clicking Fire Blast or Surf and trying to kill what's in front of him, because it puts him in a more advantageous position, which has been his problem in leagues that he hasn't done well in every game that he's underperformed. But like you mentioned, he did know his win con, and he played effectively towards it. I'm not actually totally convinced that he knew that Zygarde was his win con, but he played effectively towards it in the end game, at the very least. The best I can come up with what I like about how Paul performed and how he pulled out this upset this week, and this is something that's unique and not totally advisable, I think, under normal circumstances, but Paul did a good job in prepping around your Mon, Seth, but Paul did an even better job in prepping around you as a player. Because as we'll talk about when I get to you, your team is way better than his, right? So your offense beats his offense, your bulk beats his bulk. If he tries to get into a stall war with you, he will lose. But he knows that, or if he tries to bring balance against you, he'll lose because your team's just better. But he knows that you like to play a more balanced playstyle, and you like to have dedicated switch-ins, gain a lot of offensive momentum from the beginning, and just have a really easy to execute game plan that's predictable but very consistent. And so what he did to counteract this, and I don't know if it was conscious or not, very effectively, is he built a really offensive team this week. And so what that did, even though the sets I don't even think were totally optimal, like Scarfed Psydog didn't end up being a factor. It was Scarfed, it didn't matter that it was banned, it would have been better, being hindsight being what it is. Even the Acid Downpour on Venusaur.
I would have played it differently if it wasn't Scarfed. But
that's fair, but the fact that it was Scarfed didn't end up mattering. Acid Downpour on Venusaur provided absolutely zero advantage to him over just a standard Life Orb set. But with the team comp, he was able to put pressure on you from the beginning throughout the game with every single mod that he had in at every point.
Yeah.
And part of that is luck with what you brought, but part of that is just he built around you. He knew what you were likely to, the kind of team you were likely to bring, and the kind of team that he brought beats that team, even though his team is worse than yours and his matchup's not that great. So he prevented you from playing your game, which isn't even something that he did against me, and I find extremely impressive because it's something that I have not seen anyone else do in this league to this point, as effectively as he did. So he was able to, because of the non-stop pressure that he was putting on you throughout the entire game, get the chip that he needed for Zygarde to clean. I think there were things that you could have done with your play, which we'll talk about when we get to you, to maybe seal out the win either way. But he pulled out his second straight major upset this week, knocked off 2 consecutive undefeated teams. Sucks that he didn't beat Okan, but whatever. And so
he came close
now,
though. He killed one, I think. No,
he did not.
He did
not.
Got
6-0'd. It was not close. You forget that game. I said, quote, Paul got erased.
Oh yeah. Okay. Now I remember the game.
Yeah, that was really bad. But he positions himself well. He's in the 4th seed. This is a side note into why I don't like differential as a tiebreaker, because he's so far behind Seth in differential, he's not going to catch up to you. Which is why I think head-to-head is a better tiebreaker, because differential essentially means nothing. But he's positioned well. I think he did clinch a playoff spot, so I think the top 4 teams are all clinched right now. So we'll see what he has in his bag of tricks moving forward, because he's made things in this league, at the very least, a lot more interesting over the last 2 weeks. And just as a fan of someone watching these games, I've enjoyed it. So shout out to you, Paul. You being in 4th still is not a slight against how you played in the last 2 weeks at all. Keep it up.
I do want to say real quick before we get into me, that as soon as the game was over, I realized that I very much played that I didn't want Infernape to die, and immediately regretted that after the game, because there was a point, I forget exactly where it was, but there was a point or two where I could have sacked Infernape and brought something else in, and that would have basically won me the game. So I let ego get in the way of my play, and this is what happens when I do that. So I'm not. I hate making excuses, and I'm definitely not one to do that. But that is something I noticed that I was very adamant on keeping Infernape alive, um, and that was just not what I needed to do in this game. I think not that I underestimated Paul, but I underestimated the ease of me keeping Infernape alive. If that makes sense. So
You underestimated how important the other mons were.
yeah. So Rishu, you can talk about my team and what you thought of my play and all that stuff.
Okay, so like your prep and your play were solid. I think there's a case to be made that you actually outplayed Paul, which is hilarious. But you made, I don't even want to say errors. I want to say decisions that ended up being erroneous, right? Just because hindsight being what it is.
Yeah.
That hurt in both prep and play. So specifically, I talked about Paul building to really, really effectively to your playstyle. The flip side of that coin is you played so deep into your own playstyle, or you prepped so deep into your own playstyle. Like you essentially, the argument I'm trying to make is that your build was too balanced.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
100%.
And this is something that you can only know in hindsight, because like I really don't have an issue with you. If I were in your shoes, there's a chance I would have brought the same 6 mons with the same six sets, excuse me. But hindsight being what it is, Noivern, Roserade, Slowbro, all more offensive options, all I think better options in hindsight than Sylveon and Sableye. Because you were talking about how you wish you didn't bring Sableye after the game, and you wish you brought Slowbro instead. I don't think Slowbro was a vastly better defensive option. It was a vastly better offensive option. You didn't talk about is how totally useless Sylveon was in this matchup.
Sylveon was basically my main / only check for the Greninja. But I don't.
Which is great.
Yeah, but I don't disagree that it was somewhat useless.
But like, I'm not sure Psyshock killed Greninja anyway.
It did like 70, I think.
Yeah. So like, Sylveon provided absolutely zero value in this matchup, especially given what he brought. Like, if he had Shiftry, that's another thing. I can't remember if he still has If he either had Shiftry or if he had Hitmonchan.
He had. But it's not bad against Doggy either. So, yeah.
It's not terrible in Zydog. I think he said his Zydog had Iron Tail, and if it was banded, it would have been a problem. But it's also not terrible against Zydog. That's true. And I'm not saying Sylveon was a bad bring. I'm just saying that bringing Sylveon in hindsight is something that hurt you. You didn't play Weavile aggressively enough, so you let a bunch of mons take chip that they didn't really need to in order to. I keep. You mentioned Infernape, which is true, but also like made extensive efforts to keep Weavile preserved that I don't think you had to, because it had such a good offensive matchup. Excuse me, I'm getting a notification. I thought it was from you guys. Anyways, you didn't have to sack Rhyperior in terms of specific place. You didn't have to sack Rhyperior, which would have helped ultimately against Zydog. I don't know that it wins you the game, because the Coco then becomes a much bigger problem. Since Infernape doesn't kill it, Weavile doesn't kill it.
Jolt had HP ground in half.
So I think some combination, like if you don't sack Rhyperior there, you probably win, but I don't think you guaranteed win.
So I will say Jolt was my main Tapu Koko counter, because it was AV and it had HP ground, which did a little bit over half. And then the Infernape being Scarfed and Weavile having Ice Shard both would have been pretty decent against it. But I do agree that sacking the Rhyperior was a very bad play in hindsight.
And even when you get into Jolteon as a Tapu Koko answer, in the situation that you were already in, Tapu Koko two-shot you and was faster. So in a specific 1v1 between Jolteon and Tapu Koko wins. The other specific play is after Rhyperior died, you went into Infernape to U-turn, and I noticed when I watched your video that you did that like super quickly. You didn't even think about it. I think you should have gone into Weavile instead. Because by U-turning, you give him free initiative, and you Ice Shard the Greninja, he has to go into Coco. Coco doesn't kill Weavile, and if he U-turns out into Zydog, he loses. So you going into Weavile there, and you potentially playing mind games and like Ice Sharding him one turn, and then switching out into the second turn when he can't U-turn again, but he has to kill you. Like, it's just the mind game's there. Again, doesn't guarantee that you win, but it prevents him from doing what he did as easily. So, like I said, you didn't prep or play poorly at all, but you fell like way too deep into your own comfort zone, and it cost you because of the specific matchup of what you brought versus what Paul brought. So Paul was invested really heavily in you playing to your playstyle and maintaining the consistency that we've been praising you for all season, and it paid off for him. With that said, I think given the opportunity of a rematch and all the information that you both now have about each other's teams, I think this matchup would go differently because I think you would prep differently. But this outcome was what it was. So I still think you've been more consistent than Paul all season. 7 of the 8 weeks you played better than him. And I think you've been playing consistently better than me, so I still have you at second. But this loss does kind of suck for you, and it is a loss. So
Yeah.
that's a lot. That's a long way to say you're doing good, but your good caught up to you this week.
Okay. Okan.
First of all, I want to say that Sam never talks this much about my teams, which hurts.
Your
Other
games
than
are not fun to talk about.
Sometimes they are. Sometimes, for me, they are. Okay.
Toxic Pex is not fun to talk about.
Just let him go. It's fine.
Yeah, I think you had. I think this is the worst you've ever played. I think the prep is good. I'm not opposed to the idea of Sylveon being there because Sylveon is actually kind of key to your team, like wish and keep things happy, healthy, and just tall if you want to. Sebla is not a bad bring. Sebla is kind of a bad bring. Like it's not looking at his team. I think it's only good against the Mudsdale, I guess.
It was originally meant as like a secondary Greninja check.
Yeah, kinda.
So it was a really.
Kinda.
If you watched, I mean, I know you watched.
I did.
It was a weird set.
Yeah, but still, I wouldn't call it like a good bring, but it's not terrible because Sebla is just just toxic stall something as much as you can. Not bad. But other than that, like I said, prep is okay. But the plays, like you said, you kept Ape alive for more than just one time. Like you tried to keep him alive. Just you could have sacked Infernape against the doggy and had a free switch in to something.
Yeah.
At some point, for example. Other than that, like Sam said, Vival could have come in early and tried to do something. I also don't really understand staying in against Greninja and clicking Rock Slide for some reason. While Earthquake...
He doesn't have Earthquake.
He didn't have Earthquake?
No, I did not.
That's also something I don't understand then. Like, against a team with Ninetales, Top Coco...
He doesn't have Ninetales anymore.
He didn't?
No, he doesn't have Ninetales.
But Chandelure, he has Chandelure though. Yeah, he dropped 9, but he still... Yeah, guaranteed them more damage though.
That's true. What was your set? I can't remember now.
I mean, Earthquake is always like a mon move you have in every mon, even if they're not ground, and this is a ground one, like it's gonna do a lot of damage whatever it hits. So it only doesn't hit to Zard, and like I think for that too, I mean, I would have had, if it was me, I would have had Earthquake and something like Smack, whatever is the guaranteed hit rock move, because I'm pretty sure a Rhyperior can kill with any rock move. Because Zard is weak physically. That's what I can say about the prep. Yeah, I mean, this is I think the worst you ever played, and I'm sure you can do better. I'm sure this is just a 1 week thing. We're gonna talk about it next week again. But yeah,
so,
not much else to say.
Last but not least, number 1, as usual, we have Okan, your team, the Buca Cavaliers. So I'll let you start about your battle because you love talking about your team so much.
No, I don't like talking about my team. so much. I like hearing about him so much.
Yo, same.
I want to hear the hate. You know, like how much you hate my team. Just music to my ears. This week, I tried the new guy for the second time. It did amazing in the first week. It did even better in the second week. Mega Agron with Blissey is so great. Like Blissey Wish completely healing Mega Agron, which is Mega Agron's the only problem. You know, it doesn't have any healing. Mega Agron really came through this game. I mean, like Sam said before, for my opponent, he could have just Earth Powered again and killed Mega Agron there. I don't think much would change if he did that. Like, I was completely fine with sacrificing Mega Agron there. I just try to get it healthy. If it's healthy, he wins. If it's not healthy, something else probably would. So that was what I was thinking there. And in the end, I'm so glad that he came through. He got 5 kills. Now he's on the race. I mean, he's not on the MVP race. I think none of my ones are gonna get in the MVP race ever again because like all of them have 5-6 kills. Yeah, not much else to say because other than Agron, only Blissey and Ditto showed up. I don't even remember much what I had. I think Arcanine was really offensive. Blissey had Thunder Wave for slowing down Gengar, Torn, and Jirachi. And Shadow Ball. Yeah, I don't remember what else did I have. I had Sticky Webs because the most I feared about his team was getting hexed by Jirachi. That was his biggest win.
Yeah. I'm just gonna point out real quick. I think if you do like make a deep run or you do win the league, I think the acquisition of Mega Aggron is gonna play a huge part in that.
I do agree with that.
With the way you play it and the way your team is set up, that thing is just so disgustingly good for you.
I know. Like I just got the Mega Gallade because I believe Mega Gallade shouldn't be tier 3 Mega. It should be tier 2. Which is good.
Was it tier 3?
Yeah, it was tier 3.
Whatever it is, it's
good. That's why I just got it. But looking at my I was getting the criticism that my team didn't have enough offense, but actually like Mega Aggron has almost as good of an offense as Mega Gallade. The only problem is on setup, but Mega Aggron fits the team much better.
Yeah, I think Mega Aggron's super underrated. I love it.
I originally had Mega Steelix for this team, which
Ew.
is also doing the same thing.
Ew.
But Aggron is better than Steelix. I would say less weaknesses. So yeah, that's all.
Alright, Reese, you close us out.
Okay, so like to clear up the thing with Mega Aggron, it was tier 2 Mega last year, but we added in S tier Megas this season. So it's now the 3rd tier.
Oh, you mean Gallade?
Yeah, both of them. They're in the same tier. So I actually had Gallade last season. I agree, Gallade is really good and could theoretically be tier 1, but I digress. I said your games aren't fun to analyze, which is a bit of an exaggeration because I do like talking about you and your games.
Thank you.
But the reason that I don't go into really long diatribes is because your games are all essentially similar, and you have very linear outcomes. So this game, much like all of your games except for the game against the Grand Bulls that you had this season, but even more so in this one because I have no idea, like we already talked about your opponent. You exploited a very easy matchup. Mega Aggron was a very good acquisition. You mentioned pairing it with Blissey. Not necessarily a great pair because they obviously share the weakness.
But Toxapex fixed that, and you.
Toxapex, yeah, I was going to get into the whole combination, especially with Gliscor. Like, Mega Aggron and Gliscor is so nasty.
Gliscor's underratedly gross.
Gliscor, I don't know anyone who underrates Gliscor for being gross, because I respect Gliscor for being disgusting.
The
But
person to underrate Glisper is me, most. Because
yeah,
I think
like,
it's only in 2 weeks. I'm not mistaken.
which with your team is not a problem. Like, I don't have an issue with how you prepped. If you wanted to bring Blitzcore, I probably still wouldn't have an issue with how you prepped because, Stall being what it is isn't that hard to build effectively with. It's just it comes down to the way you play it and how your opponents prep against you. Your opponents haven't prepped particularly well against Stall by and large, but you've been playing it and prepping it both extremely well. So there's nothing to take away from you there. I think specifically with Mega Aggron and your team, you talk about how it meshes with your team, how it meshes with your playstyle, because you play Stall, obviously. You have Stall mods, you like a good defensive core, but you still want to put offensive pressure on, and Mega Aggron is the Stall mod that puts on offensive pressure.
Yep.
That's what it does. So, as far as this game goes, I think if you had wanted to, you could have 6-0'd your opponent. Like, you didn't have to switch Aggron in on the Diancie. You could have just killed it with Blissey and just sat there for the rest of the game. It made me mad.
Sure.
But at this point, you're the only undefeated team left now. You weren't when you played the battle. I think your game was, like, chronologically before Seth's, but whatever. Blissey still hasn't died. Which
We'll get there.
feels so bad, man.
We'll get there.
It's a struggle together. You talked about your team not being in the MVP race. You have 2 Mons that are currently tied with like 7 other ones at +6, which is 3rd. So Mew and Toxpex are both still technically in the top 5, but like Blaziken's now also in the top 5. There's a bunch of other stuff there. And I don't really think anyone is going to catch the trio of Infernape, Mega Charizard, and Mega Metagross, so talking about MVP race at this point is kind of pointless. And at this point, yeah, you're in the same boat, really, as I am, where winning is way more important than differential. You still got a high differential win. It's not like a 5-0 is like trash, but it could have been a 6-0. So for, I guess, the 3rd to last time this season, assuming nothing changes the next 2 weeks, which I don't see a reason to think that it will, but I also didn't see a reason to think that Paul would beat me, and then he beat me, and then beat Seth, so things happen. It is on everyone else to force you to change how you play and build in order to win.
I mean,
we saw with Seth
too by losing to me, so I'm bringing more Mimi teams, like week 9, and my team for week 10.
Well, yeah, spoilers. You already played your week 9 battle.
Yeah.
And week
but
10,
I couldn't use my meme.
That's true. That was very disappointing. Which we'll talk about. And week 10, you have the game against the Teddiursas, which now doesn't matter. So we'll see what happens there. I did help you prep for that one, so you're guaranteed to lose now. But yeah, it's on everyone else to force you to change. We saw with Seth that it is possible to fall too far into your own comfort zone and make it easier to build against you if the team is willing to invest heavily in doing so.
That's something
so that is something.
Because I played this team before. Like I always said, I played this same team before. I finished the regular season with 10 wins and 1 lose, and then I lost in the first game of the playoffs because, I was really self-confident about it. I'd say, okay, I'm gonna just do this and win, and then I lost.
Right.
So that's what I'm scaring right now.
That's what I'm saying. That's something you have to be really, really self-conscious of and try to make sure it doesn't happen. We'll see if either of your last 2 opponents can make it happen, or if something potentially happens in the playoff. If Absol superpowers a Blissey, like that'll really suck for you.
So, alright, so with that, I want to cut you guys off because we're still running long, even though it's just the 3 of us. And that's it. So, thank you guys again for being on. Week 8 Power Rankings is wrapped up. So again, leave a comment down below. Let us know what your rankings are, if you would have changed anything, what you thought of the battles. Check out the replays down below in the description. Other than that, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.